Jason McCourty is back with us, zooming in with us, NFL Network Good Morning Football co-host. There, you look good. You look like you're ready to play. Could you do 2 days during the week and your brother do 3 days and nobody would know the difference?
Yeah, the toughest thing is we'd have to talk about contract because he's getting paid a lot more than I am. So if we're gonna alternate, he's gonna have to give me a little bit more of those millions of dollars he's making.
How often does the topic of identical twins come up? Conversation for you?
A lot, especially when we were both playing football. The comparisons. He was in New England for all of his career, majority of my career. Spent a year in Cleveland, didn't win much. 8 years in Tennessee, never made the playoffs. So the twin stuff has followed us our entire lives. I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Does your brother rub in the championships into your face? I mean, how does that work with brothers?
He can now. I got my 1 Super Bowl ring. I told him I don't need 3. Yeah, 3's great, but I was able to get there. I tell him all the time, it was me coming to the team in 2018 that's helped him secure his 3rd championship ring. So he was lucky to have me.
13 years, 1 sack. What do you remember about it?
My corner coach in New England gave me a hard time about that. We were trying to find a way to let me blitz because my first sack came early in my career versus Jacksonville. It was a strip sack at that. We didn't recover the fumble, but a glorious moment for me that I was never able to do again. So 1 sack.
David Garrard?
No, it wasn't. I believe it was Chad Henne, if I'm not mistaken. It wasn't Garrard.
Well, he's not that hard to bring down.
Yeah, I'm not gonna give myself too much credit.
Okay.
It wasn't that impressive of a sack. I was unblocked coming off the edge. More of a scheme thing than a talent thing.
What do you think players think of the Kyler Murray situation? Because it's one thing for us to have something to say about it. You guys are the guys who sign these contracts. You're going to be in the locker room with the quarterback. What do you think the feeling is with that, the language in a contract with Kyler Murray?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I think for those guys in that locker room, there might be guys in the locker room that don't like Kyler, and maybe they think he's lazy or doesn't do this or doesn't do that. There's guys in that locker room, which I would assume majority of that locker room, where they probably love him. And I don't think this was probably news to anyone. I think it's probably more shocking that it's in the news and now it's a distraction almost in a sense. I think if I was in a locker room, that's what I would be most annoyed by. As the start of training camps rolling around, I may be a guy who just signed or a guy that's kind of on the bubble. I'm trying to make the team, and I may be a veteran. I'm getting interviewed, and I keep having to answer questions about Kyler Murray's contract, a guy who's making $250 million, who's obviously performed well enough that the team decided to pay him despite of his amount of film watched or anything like that. So I think within a locker room, you understand that, hey, we may all be treated fairly, but we're not all going to be treated the same. I played with guys throughout my career who could go out all week, still show up for practice every single day, and perform well on Sundays. Maybe I can knock them. I think the biggest thing is for them is going to be trying to figure out how to get Kyler Murray to perform better down the stretch of the season for himself and the Arizona Cardinals.
But were you aware on the teams you were on how much time the quarterback was putting in?
No, never aware. I think you always knew that quarterbacks were coming in early on Mondays, there all day for the most part on Tuesdays as the install was going in. Because, I mean, let's face it, mentally, that's probably the hardest position on the football field.
Yeah, I'm wondering how he handles this because it has the potential to be embarrassing. Because they're saying, look, you're not putting in the time, maybe, or you're lazy.
And
right?
it has to be annoying. And I think, like I think you said, that's part of the reason maybe they did it. Maybe they thought it would reflect bad on him and he'd now all of a sudden start to do more. But, I mean, he could literally go home, turn on the video games, grab his iPad, open up the film, hit play, leave it over there, let it play for an hour while he's playing Call of Duty. So to me, it's more of a ploy within the media to hold him accountable for the rest of the interested people in the world, opposed to him actually watching film. And who knows, how much time does he spend in the building? Maybe he watches all of his film inside the building and he wants some me time when he kicks back in his probably beautiful Arizona home.
Well, I understand that. And you bring up a great point. I think there's not going to be somebody there at home monitoring him. If they're going to go, hey, we're watching what you're watching on your iPad. All right, click, I'm watching, and you're playing World of Warcraft. But I wonder, though, how much of this is on Cliff Kingsbury? He's the head coach. He's a former quarterback. Don't you usually have a veteran who helps the younger quarterback understand how to prepare for an opponent week in and week out? That's what I mean. I'm kind of baffled by this.
I mean, we talk about it throughout the NFL the whole time I was playing in the league, veteran leadership and how important it is. I can look back. I had Cortland Finnegan, Chris Hope. Those were guys that taught me how to be a pro. There's one thing to have a guy that say, hey, for Kyler, hey, when this thing opens up, you're going to have a hot read and you're going to hit your X receiver backside. But it's another thing having a guy in a meeting room day in and day out of showing you what it's like to prepare for a game. And I think it does fall on the head coach of being able to make sure, hey, each and every week he's prepared. And he's already said that he's a guy that more goes off his cognitive skills. He doesn't need to watch a ton of film. We talked about on the show today, Michael Vick at one point said early on in his career, like he didn't really see the significance. Said he'd get the little DVDs and just throw them in the back of the car. And obviously before he got into trouble with everything, Michael Vick, an electric player who was having a really good career. So I think there's levels to it. Does Kyler want to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league? Does he want to win the championship? Those are the things that we'll see over time, how much work he's willing to put in to see how high he wants to take it.
And sometimes you're so gifted that you haven't had to put in the time. It's just natural.
Exactly.
But that's what I keep bringing up Michael Vick. Vick said if I put in the time, I'd probably have a Super Bowl ring. This is coming from Vick, who might be the most talented player who's ever played that position. You played against Kyler Murray. What was the game plan? I think 2020, you guys played against him.
Yeah, we wanted to keep him inside the pocket. That was the biggest thing when we were going against him. We wanted to force him, obviously a smaller quarterback, but extremely electric. When he got out on the edge and he had the ability to make guys miss, to be able to make plays in space and just kind of be able to be creative in the moment, he makes it very challenging for a defense. So for us, we wanted to keep him bottled in and keep him in the pocket and then be able to disguise and mix up our looks. And he's going to continue to see a lot of that. When you're as good as he is on his feet, teams aren't going to want to let you beat them that way. So they're going to try to force you to stay in the pocket and be able to disguise things. For any young quarterback, that's the hardest thing, of being able to read those coverages.
Who was the quarterback that you faced and you went, damn, he's a step ahead of us?
Oh, my goodness, Peyton Manning. He was just tough. I remember we played him. I was in Tennessee when he got to Denver, and he was so tough with when you tried to substitute or you're trying to huddle, he'd go straight to the line, call another play. So going into the game, we had a system where we wore wristbands, we gave numbers. Within the first drive, we threw that out the window, and our DB coach was on the sideline just signaling every call. We gave up 50-some points that game, and knew a guy on the other team. He was like, yeah, after the first quarter, between Peyton and the guys upstairs, they knew all of you guys' hand signals. So they were just feeding them what the coverage was going to be. And
wow,
we gave up 50 points. So Peyton was always a step ahead.
What if you just didn't listen to what he said at the line of scrimmage? Would that have been better if you're trying to figure out what he's saying? Because a lot of it's, just garbage, a decoy.
I remember when I first got to Tennessee, obviously Indy was in the division. We played them twice a year. And when it came Indy week, like everything shifted in the building. And we get like a little packet that had all of the things and sayings and signals and stuff of over the years that Peyton Manning and that offense was doing. And I remember my rookie year, we had some injuries. I ended up starting that game. Obviously, we lost. But I'm looking through the pack, and I'm just like, there's no way in hell I'm going to remember these things when I get out on the field. There's about 100 of them. So, yeah, throw that all out the window. There's no way that you're going to be able to use that.
When you got to the Patriots, Brady famously loves to come up and say, hi, I'm Tom Brady, as if you wouldn't know him. When you got there, did Brady do that to you?
I already had that moment. I used to travel down to all the Super Bowls. So I remember it was maybe Dev's second year in the league when they went to the Super Bowl in Indianapolis. And I'm there with all the families and all of that. And he comes up to me and was like, hey, man, I'm Tom Brady, man. Love watching you play. And for me, I'm in my second year. I remember telling everybody, Brady just came up to me and said, he knows who I am. Like, I was geeked up. But Tom was awesome. A great guy to share a locker room with. Extremely humble, down to earth, man. Great. Not only a great player, but a great person.
Tyreek Hill's putting a little pressure on your former quarterback there in Miami, in Tua. What do you think of that game plan?
Yeah, I think We talked about that this morning. If I'm Tua, I'm loving it. It's that new girlfriend phase. You got that infatuation. Everybody's fired up about it. And I think when you look for Tua throughout his career, when he first gets to Miami, Ryan Fitzpatrick's there, and the questions are, hey, should we hand it over to Tua? But hey, Fitzpatrick's doing well. Then Tua kind of takes over later on. But there was question marks. Hey, should it still be Fitzpatrick? And then you look at last year. Tua comes in. He's the starting quarterback all throughout training camp. Hey, are they going to trade for Deshaun Watson? Hey, Stephen Ross and ownership, they want Deshaun Watson. Then the trade deadline is the same story. So even from talking to him last year, like that becomes frustrating. No guy wants to hear that, continue to look over their shoulder. So I think, yes, he's probably a little bit over the top. There's a compliment every week about Tua, the most accurate passer in the NFL now. But I think it's nice to have some positive vibes going on around that building moving into this season this year.
Hey, congrats on the new gig, and we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Oh, appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
That's Jason McCourty. He's now with Good Morning Football.